You're home alone. The lights go out. Nothing has changed. The room is the same room it was 30 seconds ago, but your heart is pounding anyway. You know there's nothing there. Your rational mind is certain of it, and yet your body refuses to believe you. Why? Most people assume this fear is learned. A scary movie watched too young. A story told at the wrong age. But that explanation falls apart the moment you look closely. Children who have never seen a horror film still cry in the dark. Infants who have never heard a ghost story still cling tighter to their mothers the moment the lights go down. This fear shows up before language does, before memory does, before culture has a chance to teach you anything at all. That should tell you something. This isn't a story you were told. It's a program you were born with. To understand why, you have to go back. Not centuries, not even thousands of years. You have to go back millions of years to a version of your ancestors who were not the most dangerous animal on the savannah. They were prey. For most of human evolutionary history, your ancestors were mid-sized, slow, and poorly armed compared to the predators around them. No claws, no fangs worth mentioning, no armor. What they had instead was daylight vision, cooperation, and fire, and every one of those advantages disappeared the moment the sun went down. Big cats, hyenas, and other nocturnal predators didn't lose their advantage at night. They gained one. Human night vision is remarkably poor compared to many predator species. In darkness, your ancestors couldn't see what was approaching, couldn't coordinate with the group as easily, and couldn't run as effectively over unfamiliar terrain. Night was the single most dangerous part of the day. Every single day for nearly the entire span of human existence. A researcher named Randolph Ness, who helped pioneer the field of evolutionary psychiatry, described fear as a kind of smoke detector built by evolution. And like a smoke detector, it doesn't wait for proof of fire. It goes off at the faintest hint of smoke because the cost of a false alarm is small, but the cost of missing a real threat is death. That single design principle explains almost everything about how your fear of the dark actually works. Consider what your brain does the moment the lights go out. It doesn't calmly assess the room and conclude that nothing has changed. It immediately shifts into a heightened state, scanning for any sound, any shift in air pressure, any hint of movement. This isn't a malfunction. It's your ancestors' oldest survival software, still running in the background of your very modern life. There's a term for the sensation you feel when you can't see clearly but suspect something might be there. Psychologists sometimes call it anticipatory anxiety, and it's rooted in a very old cognitive shortcut. Your brain would rather assume the shadow is a threat and be wrong than assume it's nothing and be wrong. Being wrong the first way costs you a moment of unnecessary fear. Being wrong the second way, historically, cost your ancestors their lives. A psychologist named Daniel Kahneman spent decades studying how the human mind makes decisions under uncertainty, and one of his central findings was that people are wired to weigh potential losses far more heavily than potential gains. This isn't a flaw in your thinking. It's a feature inherited from ancestors who survived precisely because they overreacted to uncertainty rather than underreacted to it. The rustle in the dark that turned out to be nothing cost them almost nothing. The rustle in the dark that turned out to be something and was ignored cost them everything. This is why, even now, standing in your own hallway, in your own house, with the lights off for no reason other than convenience, some ancient part of your mind still runs the same calculation your ancestors ran 100,000 years ago. Better safe, better alert, better afraid. Here's where it gets stranger. This fear didn't just shape your nervous system, it shaped your culture. Nearly every human society, entirely independent of one another, developed the same response to nightfall: fire. Every culture on Earth, whether in the forests of Europe, the plains of Africa, or the islands of the Pacific, converged on fire as the central technology of survival, and then, remarkably, as the central technology of community. Around that fire, stories were told, warnings were passed down, children learned which sounds meant danger and which meant safety. Anthropologist Polly Wiesner spent years studying the Juhwansi people of the Kalahari Desert and found something revealing about how their storytelling changed once the sun went down. Daytime conversation tended to focus on practical matters, gossip, complaints, negotiations. But nighttime conversation, gathered around the fire, shifted almost entirely toward stories, myths, and shared cultural knowledge. Darkness didn't just create fear, it created ritual. It created the very tradition of storytelling itself, because sitting still, sharing information, and staying close to the group and the fire was, quite literally, how you survived until morning. Think about that the next time you tell a story at a sleepover, or watch a scary movie with the lights off, or feel that instinctive pull to gather close to other people after dark. You're not just being social, you're reenacting a survival strategy your ancestors relied on for hundreds of thousands of years. Even the shape of modern fear reflects this ancient logic. Ask most people what scares them about the dark, and they won't describe anything specific. They'll describe uncertainty itself, not knowing what's there, not knowing what might be waiting. That specific formless dread, the fear of the unknown rather than the fear of any particular thing, is the exact shape of a mind built by an environment where the unknown was, statistically, often deadly. You live in a world your ancestors would barely recognize. Locked doors, electric light at the flick of a switch, streets patrolled by cameras instead of predators. Statistically, you are almost certainly safer in your dark bedroom tonight than your ancestors ever were around their dying campfire. And yet the switch in your brain hasn't been updated. It's running the same code it ran on the savannah, because evolution doesn't move at the speed of technology. It moves at the speed of generations, and electric light has only existed for a blink of an eye in evolutionary terms. So the next time the lights go out and your pulse quickens for no visible reason, you don't have to feel foolish about it. You're not broken. You're not irrational. You are carrying, in your nervous system, the accumulated caution of every ancestor who survived 1,000 generations of nights exactly like this one. Their fear kept them alive long enough to have children. Those children had children. And eventually, that unbroken chain of careful, frightened, watchful people became you. You're home alone. The lights go out. And for one instant in the dark, you become every ancestor who ever listened closely to the silence and lived to see the morning.